Welcome to the Content Amplified podcast, brought to you by Masset. Our goal is to help you get more from your marketing content. Each episode is a 10 to 15 minute interview with industry experts that share amazing insights to help you squeeze as much juice from your content as you possibly can. Here's today's interview.
Welcome back to another episode of Content Amplified. Today I'm joined by Michael. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate you being here.
I love it. Michael, we're going to talk about something that we're both really passionate about. But before we dive into the subject, love to introduce you to the rest of the audience listening in. Who are you? What's your background? What do you love about content and marketing?
Yeah, no, appreciate that. So Michael Eckhoff, I'm what you would call a fractional CRO, meaning I'm working with a few different companies, just taking some of my experience and helping companies grow or scale. And how do you bring sales, marketing, product all together into an aligned approach? And so now I'm doing that for a few different companies that are at that precipice of going from a startup to a scale up and growing. Background, I've been with very large companies and very small companies. Most of that time has been spent as a sales leader. So I say I'm the sales guy. I've led global product marketing before. I've had marketing teams as part of my responsibilities as a CRO. And, for me, it's all about alignment. That's the focus that I come back to. And the most successful organizations I've been to had very closely aligned product, marketing, and sales teams. And so I'm passionate about how do you replicate that and how do you continue to build that alignment.
I love it. And I love the different perspectives that you're going to bring to the show. Most of the listeners for this show are your seasoned marketers, content marketers, head of marketing. And I love that you're going to bring that sales background and that marketing background. That alignment is so key. So that's really what we're going to focus on today, sales and marketing alignment, how we can do that through metrics and data, and then also how content plays a role in this and how we can measure its effectiveness and things of that nature. So I'm excited for the discussion. So first and foremost, when you're looking at marketing and sales alignment, how do data and metrics actually make a difference? Like why does that matter? Why was that one of the first thoughts that came to your mind when we were figuring out what to talk about and why you can and how you can align these departments?
Yeah, I'm old enough, I've got the gray hair to show that I've been around sales for a while. And when I first started in sales, you could be very prescriptive in your sales process. You could define a sales playbook. You could set up sales stages. You could use, common methodologies like MEDDIC and command of the message. Sales had more control in the process. And so because a customer had to come to us to get information, they had to get training, they had to get pricing, they had to get demos, all of that they had to come to us for. And so we had control of the process. Well, that world's gone. That doesn't happen anymore. And the reality of it is, as much as sales teams would like to blame marketing is much more in control right now. And so I'll apologize for all my sales peers out there, to the marketers that are listening. Some of us do get it. We do understand the importance. But today's world is all about the buyer journey. Customers have more control. They can go to your website. They can go to public review sites. They can talk to their peers. When they have a problem they're trying to solve, they don't need to talk to sales. And so in today's world, you've got to be able to respond to the customer where they are in their buyer journey, in their own process, with information that is valuable, informative, and helpful based on whatever they're doing. Now, the only way I know how to do that is to really define and understand that buyer journey and have very tightly aligned metrics so that when a marketing brings a qualified lead in or product brings a qualified lead in to sales, we understand where they are in the process and we know what the most valuable content is and the most valuable message is to respond to the customer at that time.
I love it. I love it. So when you're looking specifically at metrics to align those teams, where do you start? What do you build out? And then as a second follow-on question, how do you build those together so people actually agree on definitions and on how you actually track and measure and what that actually means?
I love the idea of sitting down with your key stakeholders, your contributors, and mapping out that buyer journey and customer journey in as much detail as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. but you should have a basic understanding of what's the buyer experience. And for me, many times that means when I'm starting at a new company or when I'm advising a company, I'll act like a buyer. I'll go in and I'll start researching the product, and I'll look at it the way I think about it and see how easy is it for me to get information? How easy is it for me to get a trial? Can I get a demo online, or do I have to request a demo? Do I have to fill out 15 forms and give all my personal information? Or do you make it easy for me to do that? What that gives me is that perspective of what the buyer's going through and what's happening in the process. Now, how do I get metrics? Well, there's going to be key pieces of that journey that impact results. So if I think about, I want a free trial. If you've got a free trial button on your website and the free trial immediately gets me into the product, that's very low friction. If the free trial is a email and then I get a link and then an SDR tries to contact me and I've got to set up a call and I've got to talk to 4 different people before I can do it, that's a high friction process. Now, that might not be a bad thing depending on the product that you're selling, but you need to understand how that impacts the buyer journey. So what I'm going to look for is, where are the conversions happening throughout that buyer journey? From that first impression, whether it be an ad spend, whether it be a website hit, whatever that is, from that first impression, all the way through to a closed deal, and then on into the life cycle of the customer. And I want to see the conversion rates at each spot where we can define the next step. Typically, you're going to find places where you have drop-offs. And where those drops off are the biggest, well, those are the ones I want to pay the most attention to, at least up front. And then getting in the same page, again, this is a collaborative effort. So we all should agree on what those key milestones are, the definition of what those terms mean. So if I say sales qualified lead, that doesn't just mean that somebody hit the website and marketing hands it to me and says, here's an SQL. Right? We want to understand what the specific behaviors are that qualify those milestones. So once we've aligned on what the milestones are, how we define the milestones, I really want to look at, what the conversion rate is and how long does it take to go from step to step.
I love it. It's interesting you talk about really understanding the buyer's journey. One of the coolest things that ever happened to me is we had a consultant come in and one of the businesses I worked at. And she said, okay, I need you to handwrite out on pieces of paper each step of the buyer's journey. And we booked out a boardroom and we taped them on the wall. And she literally shoulder to shoulder with me. We walked one step and said, here's what they're going through. We walked through the next step. Here's what they're going through. And there was something about that actual taking steps and talking about it that meant a lot. It's a cool exercise. And however you do that in your business, I think makes a lot of sense. So one question I have, how are you holding marketing and sales accountable? What are your recommendations on marketing having revenue numbers to build alignment versus handing off leads, things of that nature? It seems to be an everlasting debate amongst companies. What are your recommendations and thoughts there?
Part of it comes down to the size of the team, the roles and responsibilities. What I want is, I want people to own metrics that they have control over. Putting marketing in giving them responsibility for, deals closed, they don't take ownership of that. They don't feel ownership of it. It's not something they have control over. What I like to do is build a reverse funnel where we start with revenue. We go back through what our close rates are. How many opportunities do we need based on our ASP? I like to then say, okay, well, how many SQLs do we need? And go all the way back through to how many impressions, and then break that down into the logical functions that each group actually has responsibility for. So if the marketing team is able to deliver a certain number of, MQLs or PQLs, if you're in a, product-led sales model, then I want business development to take responsibility for conversions, for SLAs, to response rates, to how quickly they manage those as they're coming in. I want the sales team and the sales leaders to take responsibility for the sales cycle and getting the deal closed. The key, though, is throw away the vanity metrics, right? Get rid of the things that don't actually impact the sale. right? I have a lot of people that would come to me with, oh, we do X number of demos and I want to track and make sure we're doing 40 demos a week or whatever that number might be. Why? I don't care. What I care about is how many of those demos convert into technical wins or buyer decisions. That's the conversion piece that I care about. So what I'm looking for is how much of this can I get into, a single dashboard, right? Let's pick the 5 metrics or whatever the number would be that really make a substantive difference in the sales and marketing process, and then make them incredibly public. Put them out. Every executive meeting should start with a dashboard review. Every conversation you have should be based off of those metrics, and drive the specific activities. Because if the metrics aren't actionable, if I see a dip in conversions, what do I do? Is there some action that happens from it? And if that, you got to understand who's going to look at the metric, who cares about it, what are they going to do with it, and what are they going to do if something changes, and how do you action against it? So for me, it's about cutting down to the most important things that actually impact the overall revenue process, and then making it as transparent and public as possible.
Love it. So you find the buyer's journey, you find the most impactful points, you're measuring those points, the data is public and available, everyone can see it, it's holding each other accountable and aligned. What is like the cadence that marketing and sales should come together? How does that look like when you're discussing metrics, possibly figuring out ways to help each other improve, especially if there is a marketing or a sales metric that is dipping? How can you build alignment and the ability for the teams to support and uplift one another?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One, the dashboards and the metrics, to me, if you're not looking at it every day, it's probably not important to you. And so I want to look at, for the individual metrics that each function is responsible for, that should be a daily checkpoint. There's so many tools now like Slack that you have for company communication. You can have it automatically publish that out, and if there's any variance in it, it can actually alert people. So there's a lot of ways you can do that to make it that daily occurrence. For the alignment, most businesses operate in a quarterly model. I like to have a regular call, usually led by product marketing, to pull those teams together on either a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly process, but a quarterly summit, right? A quarterly alignment where you bring the larger teams together. I've been to too many places where we have these marketing calls, sales and marketing calls, where you bring all the sales reps and all the marketing team together. 95% of the people sit there while the 2 leaders talk, right? If that's the case, just let the 2 leaders talk. You don't need to bring everybody else in and waste their time.
I love it. So when you're talking about that, you mentioned product marketing. What is your opinion on how product marketing can bridge the gaps? Where are they filling in to build the alignment between sales and marketing as well?
Yeah, if I had a whiteboard, I'd draw my favorite Venn diagram, which is the circle of product, the circle of marketing, the circle of sales. And then the circle in the middle that aligns all 3 of those, that's product marketing. And, I've kind of long been a believer of the pragmatic marketing model, very standard industry model for product marketing. But, the idea that product marketing is the one who is understanding what the customer needs, what's happening in the industry with competitors, helping to define that category that you're competing in, that's sharing that information back to the product teams so the product knows what to build and when to build it. That's giving that information to the marketing teams and understanding what's working, what's not. That's taking the product features and capabilities and turning that into value-based messaging, and then enabling the sales team and listening to the sales team on what's happening. That's a very superficial, high-level explanation of what product marketing does. It's about 100 things more than that every day. It's probably the toughest job that I've ever had, is leading product marketing. But, to me, the best product marketing organizations are one that focus on value, and being able to talk about value early in your marketing, be able to have that in your website, and for people to consume information that really understand what value the product is going to bring, that can use those value-based statements and value-based discovery models to help the sales team get a better view of the customer, and then carry that all the way through the sales cycle so that you're building a value-based sale. Those are the ones that have the greatest success, that have shorter sales cycles, bigger deal values, higher close rates. And so that's part of what I am passionate about, is that value selling approach. And that's really driven by product marketing.
I love it. So one final question related to product marketing. When you're looking, we talked about data and metrics. What are the metrics that they're trying to improve? Like, are they actually looking at close rates and asking themselves, how do I help the sales team close more? Are they looking at speed to sale, things of that nature? What are the metrics that you recommend product marketing teams really focus on to build alignment, but also accountability and focus on the right things to move the needle?
Yeah, I mean, today product marketing typically is very focused on content, and content is key. Whether you're building an awareness campaign to educate your customers, whether you're just sharing information, whether you're getting information out on public review sites, across that buyer journey, the different pieces of content, whether that be a white paper, a PDF, a blog, a video, or even just a value-based message, right? Product marketing is the best resource to own that content, to manage that content, and to measure the effectiveness of that content. And so I'm big on, rapid iteration with messaging and trying out different messages, doing a lot of A/B testing. What I love to see is when an organization can identify those key inflection points in the sales process, and then identify the effectiveness of particular content pieces or messaging at each of those inflection points. So the metrics that I like to see product marketing tracking are, how effective are we at those areas, and what could we do better? How could we, create a better message that gives us a higher conversion from MQL to SQL, or from SQL to an opportunity? Content and messaging drive that, and that's, in my opinion, the future of our sales process, which is, how do I start utilizing AI? How do I start utilizing much more data-driven sales processes so that I'm not building a standard, antiquated sales playbook? I'm building a dynamic model that's driven by the effectiveness of our sales capabilities and the content that we're providing.
I love it. I love it. Well, as promised, these episodes go by quick to make them action-oriented and super easy to consume. Michael, I have so much to think about, and I have learned so much from this episode. It's really amazing. If anyone wants to connect and reach out and find you online, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Certainly easy to find me. Michael Eckhoff. I'm one of very few out there on LinkedIn. So certainly reach out to me there, and I'd be happy to connect and carry the conversation forward. I appreciate you letting the rogue, quota carrying sales guy show up in the world of marketing. But it's very important to keep us aligned.
I love it. I love it. Well, Michael, thank you so much again for the time today.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Thank you for listening to the Content Amplified podcast. Please subscribe and leave us a review. And for additional ways to get more out of your content, visit our website at getmasset.com. That's getmasset.com. And tune in next time to the Content Amplified podcast.